So we got one Shelly US plug here. Wait, yeah, well, we're going to get to that. We're going to show you what's good about it, what's bad about it, and of course, how to fix it. Let's check it out. Pretty no frills plug. I mean, it's a 15 amp plug. Of course, it's designed for the US, so it's 110, 120 volts, give or take. And of course, it does have the ESP chip inside for the IoT or Wi-Fi or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, this is, of course, the standard US plug and does have a simple button, LED, etc. And you will notice one thing that is you typically see with the Shelly is missing. And yeah, unfortunately, there is no pin header like you see on the Shelly 1 to put in your DuPont jumper wires, to flash your own firmware, or just for that moment. And we will explain why, but let's take a look at it. So it is a 15 amp load. They say 1800 watts. And of course, this would work well for a washing machine in the US. Now, of course, if you do have an electric dryer, this of course is not going to work. But if you have a gas dryer, like I do, this would work perfect for that as well. So you can do your voice notification, which is still one of my favorite automations with Home Assistant or Node-RED or whatever you might be using to notify everyone using either your voice assistants or whatever you might do in the home to let you know the laundry is ready to be moved over, or just take it out the dryer so it does not wrinkle. Now you will notice the form factor. I do like this form factor over this type of form factor because this one will block the second plug because you can't plug them together on an outlet. So it ends up ruining your outlet usage. I just don't like these stupid little round plugs. One of my favorite plugs of all time is the Sonoff S31. And as you know, you can put two of these in one socket. So the same thing can happen with this. You can put them in the same socket if you need to do two power monitoring on the same socket for two different devices. It does work and works well. But as you'll notice, if you've watched the Sonoff S31 video, you can slide this out and there are screws so you can easily take such as a little jig flasher like this, clip it on to the board and flash your firmware for whether it be Tasmota, ESP Home, or whatever it might be, all with ease. Well, there is no screw on this. It's kind of glued here, and of course you'll have to take it apart and potentially you could ruin your plug. We're going to show you an easy way to also upgrade this. No exploit, nothing at all except your browser to put Tasmota or ESP Home to fix an issue with it. So we did open up one of our plugs so you wouldn't have to. And no, yours does not come apart this easy, but looking inside, this is a 16 amp relay, which fits the 15 amp. Definitely overkill for buying an amp, but that's fine. Here's the little ESP board. But you'll notice one thing, you cannot get to the pins because the pins are on the bottom. You'd have to unsolder all this, or you'd have to drill out this, potentially ruining the plug. So one thing I did notice right off the bat, I said I've seen this plug before. So this is a Zuzi plug, and also the Tekken plugs look much like this. And you'll notice they pretty much look the same, except this one has a glossy finish, as you can see on the case. But it's the same plug, almost the same exact button, LED. But I do appreciate they did not. I don't like branding on the front of things. And it's pretty much the same plug. And then let's take a look inside. And we're going to zoom in a little closer so you can see. You probably don't realize which one's the Shelly, which one's the Zuzi. There's not a whole lot different. You'll notice this region, pretty much the same, as well as this region here where the plug goes in. The relays are different brands. Now, I did notice there's a little different date code. Like this one's 2018 12/12. This one's 2018 08/03. So of course, I've already given it away based on which one is which, because you can see the brands if you would roll back the video and see that this was the Shelly up here because it had that 16 amp relay. But other than that, these things are identical. So it's definitely what Shelly has done is do a rebrand of one plug and just put their firmware on it and call it the Shelly US plug. So that would explain why there are not any pin headers on this plug, because they would have to change the whole design of it, and that probably wasn't feasible to do because they were just doing a remake of a plug that was already designed. So if you watched some of my previous videos, you can know that I don't really like the Shelly app too much. It does look nice, but I don't find the functionality to be too great. Difficult to kind of get around on some things, and well, I just prefer to have local control without any additional apps and etc. But luckily for the Shelly, you can just add it to your network using the access point mode, SSID password, it gets right on. Don't even need the Shelly app. That's pretty cool. So when you do come in here, you do get your standard on and off. And we do have a about 60 watt bulb attached to it. Now I can tell there is a little delay I've found, and then it will show the wattage. Now there's no voltage on here, even though the chip does have voltage and additional sensors as well. And well, we're going to get to that, so just hold on. But I wanted to show you an issue that I have. Now, of course, you could use this with, say, even the new Shelly integration that's coming out in the new version of Home Assistant at the time of the recording of this video. I haven't messed with it myself yet. There are a bunch of different custom components, etc. But, well, I just like tried and true MQTT with Tasmota, and that way I can use it with Node-RED or whatever and have no dependency on Home Assistant itself. Plus, it unlocks a bunch of other features as well, such as device groups and many other things that you can use with Tasmota. And we are going to upgrade this one with no soldering, just with the browser. So if I go into Internet Security and down in Developer Settings, that's where you would turn on MQTT, which is cool that they do have MQTT built straight into the stock firmware. Now it does disable the cloud on this particular unit, and yeah, this is just a test MQTT box. I kind of left it all default, and I left retain off on purpose because I want to show you something here. If you pull up MQTT Explorer, if you don't have this app and you have MQTT, and definitely get this one. It's really cool to be able to see everything. Now you'll notice I fired it up. Just this would be a way of being able to start up Home Assistant, and you'll notice at first glance this Shelly's was not here, and that would mean that Home Assistant would not know the state of things. Now it did come up here and post its data for the relay as well as the power, energy, etc. But there's no retained message for the retained state. Now if we go ahead and reboot the plug, and we'll jump back to MQTT Explorer, and now you'll notice there's online true. And if you're not sure what last will and testament is, no, we're not talking about any of the wheels and funerals and stuff. We don't need any of that lately. It's a real important feature of MQTT, and it's not really implemented correctly with the stock firmware. It should always retain the online message, and then whenever the device falls off the network, MQTT itself will actually change that to offline. We'll show you how that works with Tasmota. So let's go ahead and get this thing flashed first. If you haven't watched my previous video on how to flash your Shellys and upgrade them to Tasmota without any soldering, exploits, or whatever, we'll leave that video down in the description below. But it's real simple. We'll jump on over here to the MGOS to Tasmota, and all you really need is the URL for the Shelly US plug. So we'll copy that to the clipboard, and We'll make note of this IP address because we will need to replace this Shelly IP with that. So we'll do 10, 10, 1, 135. Just go ahead and hit enter. And you'll get this updating message. Do be patient. It could take up to 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. You will see the LED flashing multiple times. Just walk away or watch with your phone or something that'll browse the Wi-Fi APs in your area and just look for that Tasmota dash. It's going to have some numbers, but don't power cycle the plug. You could potentially break it if you unplugged it during that crucial moment when it's flashing. And you will need to, if it doesn't auto direct you, browse to 192.168.4.1. We'll go ahead and scan for our network. And I like to go ahead and check this little box here. And that way, you know, you didn't misspell it like I did. And you can just hit the save and then go look at your router or whatever gives that IP addresses and find the IP address. A lot of times it'll be the same IP address. So once you've attached it to your network, it's not a bad idea to go to the console. And we're going to issue a reset space 5. And that's going to erase everything, set defaults, just to make sure all that previous firmware is gone. And then we'll also do our little ping trick because we need to do a upgrade of Tasmota. There's no point in us staying on this older version when there are much newer ones. So we'll go to main menu, we'll go to firmware upgrade, and currently the Hackbox org is currently working, but potentially in the future it may not, as they have changed to a different URL. If it doesn't work for you, we'll leave the link down in the description of the video, or you can just go to the Tasmota GitHub and get the newer link. But we'll leave this one here and we'll hit start upgrade and we'll drag our ping window over and we should see it do the 2-step flash and it'll get us to the latest version of Tasmota. Now, this can take a few minutes. And just go ahead and let it wait and let it do the 2-step flash, and then we'll go ahead and refresh the page and hopefully we'll be at the latest version. As you can see, it is doing the first step of the upgrade, and that's normal for the page to show can't be reached. Don't panic. And then now you can see the timed out. It's doing the second step of the upgrade, which will get us over to the correct version of Tasmota. And give it a few seconds and it probably will refresh. And there you go. We're on 8.5.0 and definitely not a problem. Go in the console and issue another reset 5 just to make sure you're on the latest defaults, everything for the latest version of Tasmota. So it should restart, and you'll notice also the URL has changed because we did the defaults for the 8.5.0. So that'll be set up next time for you if you want to upgrade to 8, 6, 7, whatever it may be when it comes out. So how do we set it up for the plug? It's pretty simple. We'll leave the template down in the description of the video. You can head on over to one of my blog posts, the Shelly Plug US. If you scroll down and follow the instructions, pretty much what we were just talking about here, take this command, go to the console, paste it in, hit enter. It's going to reboot. And you'll notice already we have voltage, current, power, apparent, so many more sensors off the same exact hardware than we did with the Shelly stock firmware. Now, one other optional thing I do like to do is I put this rule in, and that gives us the LEDs for the red and blue based on the power state. So we'll just copy and paste these into the console. Pretty simple stuff, no crazy coding and all that, just a bunch of copying and pasting. We did all the work for you. Go ahead and turn the plug on with the button. And you can see the LED turns blue. And now we need to calibrate the plug. It's pretty easy to do, and it is very close, what I found. But if you do want to get it dead on, I'll show you how to do that. We did leave the commands in the blog post. I do find it easy to use that 60-watt bulb because it has pretty much for the US, you can put in that half an amp at typically 120. But of course, if you do want to use a volt amp watts calculator and get it exactly on, you're more than welcome to do that. I'm just going to show you some quick settings for doing a bulb. And if you do have, say, a kilowatt meter or something else, you can use that too. So basically what you're trying to do here is its power set 60 is the wattage. The current set 500 is for half an amp. And then the voltage is based on what the current voltage is in your home. You can use your voltmeter or some other type of plug to find that current voltage out. So now that we got it configured, we're going to show you how to put it straight into Home Assistant with no custom component, no YAML, no nothing. It goes right into your MQTT with auto discovery. So to do that, we're going to go to configuration, configure MQTT, our IP address for MQTT. Don't change the client. You will need to change the username to the username you have for your MQTT server, which is typically the add-on in Home Assistant. And then for the topic, I'm going to give it a unique name. We'll just say plug Shelly test. And then we'll go ahead and save it. And we'll go ahead and check to make sure we're on MQTT. And you should see it says attempting connection and connected, and you know it has MQTT. One little last thing we're going to do, which is optional because you can rename it in Home Assistant, is go to configure other and the device name. We'll go ahead and set the device name to plug Shelly test. Hit save. And then for the real easy part, you're going to type in SO19 space 1. Stupid simple, and hit enter. Should come back and say set option 19 on, and you'll see these two Home Assistant lines here, and you know it did publish to Home Assistant. And you do have to make sure that you typically had the MQTT auto discovery turned on in Home Assistant, but normally that is on. So we'll jump into Home Assistant and go into configuration, integrations, and we'll go to MQTT. And you can see we have our plug Shelly test, and we'll go ahead and add it to Lovelace. And you can see now we have our Shelly test. As you can see, the blue light up here, it does turn back to red, but hey, what about my power? Well, there's a little thing called telemetry that it only updates the power every so often, but there's a really cool feature called Power Delta, and we're going to cover that really in depth in the future when I show you how to use this plug to do your laundry notifications. Yeah, we've done that in the past, but hey, I want to show you how to do that in a new updated way with auto discovery and without any YAML and all that mess, just all through the GUI. Really simple. But the time being, let's go ahead and go back to the plug. So just do power delta space 20. And what that's going to do, anytime there's a 20% change, it's going to push the new wattage. So one last thing, show you what LWT is really all about. Now the way LWT should work is if we remove the power to this Shelly plug, so we got no LED, and then if we wait a little bit, you should see this LWT turn to offline. And there it is, offline. And also you should notice if you go into Home Assistant itself and you try to turn on the Shelly, it's also going to show you all unavailable because that device fell off the network. This is how MQTT should work, is when the plug falls off the network, MQTT doesn't hear from it for a while, automatically will post offline, and that way all your other services such as Home Assistant, Node-RED, etc. will know that that plug has fell off the network, and you could even do an automation or whatever it might be to send you a notification if it's a plug that has a crucial meaning, such as a washing machine or a refrigerator, etc. And that way you can know that power has been removed from that plug and there's an issue and you need to correct it. So that wraps this one up. Yeah, the Shelly plug may be a little more than maybe you're wanting to spend typically, but it's that sure thing. You're not trying to buy a plug off of Amazon and worrying about, hey, can I do it with Till You Convert? Because there's just not a lot of options with Till You Convert lately. Or can I solder it? Or I don't want to deal with soldering the S31. I just want to pull out the box, throw my stuff on there and be done. Well, probably this plug will be for you. So definitely, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon. And I do appreciate all the Patreon subscribers. Definitely helps out. New projects and new videos bring to the channel each week. And y'all take care.
Parasailing?
What is parasailing?
Because you have to go on because you have a parachute and it floats you.
Oh.
Walk up behind the counter. We're like, no.
Uh-oh.
All gone. Dinner.
Hey, Owen, can we throw your food in the sand and you pick it up with your mouth?
Because I've never been parasailing.
Look. Look, it's a big smiley face.
Ready?
Yeah. On the green, the blue. Look at this. Isn't this cool?
Look at the 7 C's. Look at the
7
7 C's.
C's?
I can see my house I can see our house from here. Wow. This is so amazing.
We all have our burdens, yeah, but we just keep on fighting and we never look back. Here we go.